Welcome, viewing audience. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Bilalian Voices in the Tradition of Imam W. Deen Mohammed. Today's date is March 27th, 2025, and this is episode number 43. Today we have joining us for reflections on the Ramadan Sessions in the Tradition of Imam W. Deen Mohammed that was just held this past weekend in the Washington D.C. area, led by Muslim American leader Imam Earl Abdulmalik Mohammed. We have tonight joining us to give reflections is Sister Sakinah Beyah out of Atlanta, Georgia, and Imam Dhuhan Abdullah out of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. As always, we begin by greeting as we Muslims greet. Peace be upon you. Assalamu alaikum. And in this blessed month of Ramadan, the month of fasting, we say Ramadan Mubarak, blessed Ramadan. My name is Terenzo El-Amin. I am your host, imam and business owner here in Cincinnati, Ohio, joined by my co-host, Imam Hanif Abdul Wahid out of Rochester, New York.
Assalamu alaikum.
Before we get into our program tonight, we'd like to give some announcements pertaining to the leadership of Imam Earl Abdulmalik Mohammed. On Sunday, April 6th, the first Sunday in the Tradition of Imam W. Deen Mohammed will commence on April 6th at 9 a.m. It'll be broadcast on YouTube and also on Facebook. The theme for the first Sunday address in the Tradition of Imam W. Deen Mohammed is researching our faith and supporting business life in our community. For more information on the first Sunday address, you can go to eamspeaks.com. The inaugural New Africa Cultural and Business Summit will take place Saturday, June 14th, 2025, here in the Queen City of Cincinnati, Ohio, with a major public address coming from Muslim American leader Imam Earl Abdulmalik Mohammed. His address for the summit will be Enlightenment, Dignity, Excellence and Establishment, Islam's Help to the Needy and the Affluent. This will take place again on Saturday, June 14th, 2025, here in Cincinnati, Ohio. It will be held at the Cincinnati Main Public Library there on 800 Vine Street, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45202. Doors open at 12 noon for the program. The program begins at 1 p.m. It's free and open to the public. We'll have more information regarding the first annual New Africa Cultural and Business Summit to take place here in Cincinnati, Ohio. We plan to have this as an annual event in the summer month of June. Also, join us every Sunday morning, for our Islamic Studies class taught in the tradition of Muhammad the Prophet with the methodology of Imam W. Deen Mohammed, taught by his partner and successor, Imam Earl Abdulmalik Mohammed. For more information for this free class, you can go to eamspeaks.com, hit the tab Islamic Studies class. Every Wednesday at 7 p.m., tune in to the powerful and enlightening podcast discussion called Family Ties, a Prescription for Society, the Frank and Florida Show. You can find this powerful podcast on Apple, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. Every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern, Family Ties, a Prescription for Society, the Frank and Florida Show. Now what we'd like to do is just give you a little background on the reflections, and we'll pass it over to our Imam Hanif Abdul Wahid.
Assalamu alaikum, listening audience, and welcome to Bilalian Voices. This past weekend was a very enlightening Ramadan session held in the same tradition as our leader, Imam W. Deen Mohammed. Our leader, Imam Earl Abdulmalik Mohammed, he started the Ramadan session with a very powerful Jummah. The topic was Prophet Muhammad and the human purpose. And he really set the tone for the weekend there. Uh, it was well attended by the believers that are in support of the successor to Imam W. Deen Mohammed. And I would like to say also that the Ramadan session, the vision of it from Imam W. Deen Mohammed, he believed that this would possibly be one of the biggest Muslim gatherings in the coming years. And I can see that. I think that this has gone all over YouTube and on many platforms, and people are still reviewing it right now. I was excited to be there. Imam Dhuhan Abdullah was there, and Sister Sakinah Beyah, her husband Rafiq, and their children, they attended, and this was just a wonderful event. Our young people got a real treat out of it because a lot of the content was geared to get them to become engaged also too in terms of these topics. And so we started with the Juma, took a little small break, and then came back and went all the way to Maghrib, and that was a very, very powerful session. We're going to get into a lot that was said and a lot that was taught, but the whole theme of the thing is that this human purpose that we have, and the model of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is that human model, modeled again by our leader, Imam W. D. Muhammad. It all was put in focus. Sister Sakinah, I wanted to get your thoughts on this. I mean, you had your whole family there. It had to be quite moving for you all because after you heard those things, I'm quite sure that you all over dinner or when you got back to your rooms, you were excited to discuss what was heard.
Yeah, it was. Assalamu alaikum. It was fulfilling and enlightening. As you stated, I did travel from Atlanta to the DC area with my husband, Rafiq, and three of my four children. And my children's ages differ. I have adult children and I have teenager and I have a 10-year-old. And so being able to expose them in each stage of their life, a young child, teenage child, and then a young adult moving into independence, being able to experience the Ramadan session, starting with Juma, was a beautiful experience. Like you said, starting off with Juma, the topic of Prophet Muhammad and human purpose. For each of my children, it was something that they could reflect on in their stages of their life, starting from my 10-year-old, who is just now becoming aware of himself in the world and trying to decipher where he belongs and what his purpose is. Hearing the Imam and Juma inspired many questions, as we often get questions from Amir. As well as my 16-year-old, who is now in the midst of young adulthood, a young man, being around his peers and engulfed in a world where there's lots of confusion and uncertainty. And he being able to hear, what his purpose is, what the purpose is for him in his life. As well as my daughter, who's 23 and she's graduating from college this year. Too, also, that's a totally different stage of life. Her, it's being a young woman, being able to getting ready to embark into a life of independence as well, and understanding, her purpose. What is she to do in this world? What are her contributions? It was just a very beautiful experience. I was very grateful to be able to be there and experience it with my children. There were questions, particularly from the 10-year-old. The 16-year-old doesn't really ask a lot of questions. He just absorbs. And then we're able to observe how he absorbed and how he applies it to, his life. He's a thinker. But the 10-year-old often comes away from, when he listens to Imam Abdulmalik during the classes, or at the previous Ramadan session, because he's gone before, he said, that makes sense. It's like a light goes off, in his head. I know what I'm here for. And so that was just a beautiful experience.
Yeah, Imam Earl Abdulmalik Mohammed, he greets Amir very fondly, and they always have this warm exchange. And I could see your son beam in terms of the affection that the Imam has for him, but his curiosity is well known in the community, and he really pays attention. You can really get that from him, and I think he's going to be that special type of emphasis in the future that the Imam uh, tells us about. Imam shared with us during the Ramadan session also too that he was starting to have some real good breakthroughs with his own children, especially his son. And he gave the wisdom of, you know how it is when we were coming up. Our parents was just about comply. You do this and you do what you're told, and I mean that's just that. But to get young people to reason with themselves, to understand why they should do a thing, and what they turn away from was a good thing. And I think the whole Ramadan session, uh, where the Imam was giving us the analogy of how the nature is very, very natural. But if you don't have the intelligence to obey the best inclinations into you, look up towards the heavens for the guidance, to get those things, to be obedient, it's going to be it's going to be rough and hard for you. And there was one question that came up. Uh, I think a sister asked about what is it that we can tell our young people in terms of getting them to understand maybe some of their purpose and some of the direction that they have to go. And the Imam says, use nature. He says he has found out that when he has dialogue with his young son, and he can tell him about a river, a plant, or a tree, the analogy of the tree. Um, all of these things forms a picture for him, and it makes things a little clear for him. So creation was a thing that he says that if we try those things, it engages our children because our children naturally they have a love for science, and so this may be one of the ways to engage them, you know. And so I thought that to be very, very interesting. I didn't get a chance to ask Amir about what he thought about it, but I'm quite sure that you all had a possibly a good time with your young people, with that. Brother Dhuhan, this is the second year that you have brought your daughters to the Ramadan session, and it's always a joy to see them. They're growing by leaps and bounds, also too.
Yeah.
I forget which daughter it was, but she sat between me and you. She seemed to be attentive to
Yeah.
what the imam was teaching. Could you give us some reflection?
Yes, sir. So praise be to Allah, Assalamu alaikum, and Ramadan Mubarak. It was very enjoyable. It was very rewarding for me, just as a father, to have my daughters there, just to be able to accommodate for them having that experience is a rich, rewarding, deeply fulfilling feeling for me. And I like some of the things, a lot of the things, really everything that Imam Abdulmalik was saying about how children are influenced and how to approach putting influences, exposing them to influences that kind of put, and this is my wording, put guardrails up that keep them moving along the best pathway. And it kind of it validated a lot of what is my sensitivity in raising my own daughters and interacting with them, uh, and exposing them to the religion, because I don't, you know, when I was young, you know, I was forced to get up and make salat. And that's not something that is imposed. My daughters don't have that imposed on them. But I was very much moved by when Imam Abdul Malik talked about his son and how his son arrived at this place where he wanted to just consciously take on the responsibilities and the disciplines of upholding Islamic life and all that it invites us to. And he on his own initiative, on his own desire, on his own curiosity, on the movement in his own soul, uh, went and asked his father, our leader now, for, you know, guide me, show me how to do this. I want this for myself. And it was it's something completely different from a situation where, you know, you impose something on your children. And a lot of times children who grow up with things imposed on them, you know, as soon as they get to an age or a situation where they have a little bit of freedom and more autonomy, they move away from what has been imposed on them and what has been a burden on them. But if you give them the space and the leverage, the freedom to pick it up on their own, then it's a beautiful thing watching them come into what you would want them to come into, and you didn't have to compel them. And so, you know, I had all of my daughters there. Most of them came last year. All of them came this year. And, you know, it was a lot for them, the long lectures. And so when my daughter, my second oldest, she was the one that came all the way up to the front row and sat in between us.
Yeah.
You know, that was I know this is not a traditionally an Islamic term, but it was a magical moment for me.
Praise be to Allah.
I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that. And I asked them what they got from from the different sessions. And you know, uh, most of the feedback that I got from them revolved around the concept of Prophet Adam, an understanding that is derived from our study of an appreciation for the placement of Prophet Adam in the Islamic scheme of things. So it was a wonderful experience, and I love to see that my daughters were able to experience it uh, and put themselves, involve themselves at least a little bit, because you know it's one thing for you to say something or to tell your daughters or to try to teach them or try to guide them, but you know when they hit a certain age, what you say doesn't matter as much as what they see from everybody else. You say something and they dismiss it, but then they see it or experience it outside of you. They experience it and they get their own personal experience with it on their terms, and you know they're much more open to it. And so if I know a lot of local situations don't have the spirit that was in that room. They don't have the clarity of perception that was in that room. They don't have the love and the strong and dignified bonds, the social bonds that we have, as it feels like a family. Uh, and so even if they are not yet uh, maybe sophisticated enough in their thinking to be able to appreciate everything that was delivered in the lectures, just being in that environment, I believe, had an effect that's bigger than anything that I could say just talking to them on my own. So praise be to Allah.
Imam Abdullah, there was a gentleman that was at the Ramadan session. I don't know if he was from Harrisburg or not. And Sister Zakina, you can chime in on this one also too. But he heard the Juma. He listened to um, the Ramadan session. The following day, he listened again, and then he finally commented to Imam Earl Abdulmalik Mohammed that he really enjoyed himself here, and that the insights that the Imam shared with him gave him a lifetime experience that he had been looking for all along, and that he was so hung up into just being a ritualistic Muslim in terms of being extreme. And I, this was my observation. I don't know if he actually said this here, but I thought that what he was with a school of thought that is very common that African Americans are in. He said that that wasn't for him, and he was moved to tears. This brother really started crying, man. He really thanked the imam, and I thought that that was a very moving and pivotal moment in the Ramadan session that said to all of us, boy, we got something here, you know?
Oh yeah.
At least that's how I felt about it. What do you think about that, Sister Zakina, before Imam Dhuhan comments on that?
I felt his emotion. I felt his it was a strong emotion, and the emotion felt like um it felt like a burden had been lifted from him.
Yes.
That he had been taught or had been following a certain way where he didn't feel and I'm only assuming that, and this is from experience from other Muslims that I have encountered, that they have not felt worthy of their own leadership, and they come into contact or they began to listening to Imam Deen Mohammed and Imam Earl Abdulmalik Mohammed, and there's an awakening that they have their own leadership, and they have their own identity, and our identity is unique and special, which allows us to have a special perspective on life and again our purpose. And I felt like for him that was something that just completely overwhelmed him, where he felt that he had finally arrived to a place where he can find his purpose. And he had a young son there with him. He had two sons, an adult son
Right.
and a very young son there. And I felt like, at least for me, I would have felt like now I have something to give to my child. Now I have something to lead him
That's good insight.
with my child. And that's how I feel with my children. I was born in this community. So I also, like Imam Dhuhan, was strongly encouraged to go to, the prayer, the Jumu'ah, dragged around the country to listen to Imam at the public addresses. And I'm from Little Rock, Arkansas. And so we would take many treks, throughout the country to listen. And at the young ages of 10, 12, and 14, at times, it never seemed burdensome, but it wasn't exciting. It wasn't something I looked forward to. But as I look back, and now as I'm taking my children, I look back and I understand the reasonings why my father did it. Because now I'm here and I know the purpose and I know the importance of it. And so I bring my children. The difference is my 10-year-old is excited. And I believe it's because of what Imam Dhuhan said. We have a family community, and he feels as, his friends are the brothers, his friends are 40 and 50-year-old men. And so it's something that he looks forward to. He listens very attentively. He takes notes at times, so he can ask questions or he can reflect back on himself. But that is what I took away with the brother who asked the question. He said he was impressed, and the word impressed, I believe, I took away meaning it was impressed upon him, as opposed to him saying that he was impressed with Imam Earl Abdulmalik. I think the impression was more placed upon himself. That there was awareness and awakening with him from the message that he had gotten that weekend. And I think it was beautiful.
Yeah, liberation.
Exactly.
Imam Dhuhan, real quick.
Yes, sir. So there was definitely a burden that was lifted off of my brother. And I know him, I've been knowing him for some years. His adult son was in my class when he wasn't an adult in the public school. So I know them for some time. And yeah, so the way that they had embraced Islam, his son, the adult son that was there, Brother Ramadan, very, very sincere brother, very intentional about his Islamic identity and Islamic character. But what's missing for them is a leadership focus. So they are always searching for understanding, just as Muslims should. But in their searching for understanding, one of the troubles that bother them is the lack of respect for African American leadership in Islam. And the leadership tradition that we do have has been slandered so much that the rumors and the gossip, the slander, and the mischaracterizations that have been cast upon our leadership and our tradition have been roadblocks in the minds of them, just like it has been for many people. And so, when we look out in the world for leadership, for us, coming from the history that we had and the burdens that we have and the unique story that we have and the unique sensitivities that we have, when we look for Islamic leadership for us, that appeals to us, that resonates with us, that validates the legitimacy of our experience and our trajectory, our past, and the pathway forward. We don't get that from Muslim leadership from abroad. We get that from Muslim leadership from that was developed along the same pathway as our growth. And so there's a problem. There's a problem when we're given a picture of that leadership that puts us in conflict with ourselves. And I think what that brother experienced was the pulling away of the conflict, the resolving of the conflict that makes you resist, that has a roadblock, a stumbling block, something in the way, a barrier between you accepting what is established as legitimate leadership from amongst ourselves. And I think I know what he was able to see firsthand for himself in the Ramadan sessions is that the messaging of our leadership is squarely within the legitimate boundaries of Muhammad the Prophet's interest. And it doesn't deviate, regardless of what is in our past that people look at and people find discomfort with. When you look at how we evolved, what we have now as a leadership expression is more legitimate and more squarely in line with Muhammad the Prophet's messaging and with Muhammad the Prophet's sensitivity than what you will find any other place. And I've never seen that brother. That brother, he's a big brother. He's a big brother. He's solid, and I've never seen him move to tears like that. And just the fact that it had that impression on him, that experience had a even more profound experience on me than just being in the Ramadan session. Like just seeing how it affected him and knowing him.
Made many of
I
us
thought that was
cry.
a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it made many of us cry. It was
Yeah.
very moving and compelling moment there. And I thought it to be so excellent. Imam just he did what he was supposed to do for us. Praise be to Allah.
You know, listening to you all express your reflections on the Ramadan session, you know, programs like this is needed. This is a beautiful, what I'm hearing, because I didn't have the opportunity to be there physically. And to hear how you all are sharing the reflections and how it touched the people there. It's always best to be in the room to get the fullest impact. And I say praise be to Allah. The reflection that you all just shared, Sister Sakinah, what you shared in regards to your children and the development and how this language and understanding affects them in the different stages of their life. Excellent, excellent picture that you presented. And you, Imam Dhuhan, what you presented. So we say praise be to Allah for the information that you all are sharing, and to tie in something, Imam Dhuhan, that you just mentioned about that burden being lifted off this brother that you all are talking about the attack and assault on leadership. We want to play a clip from the Jummah at the Ramadan session that talks about that assault and the strategy to redeem our leadership in the eyes of the public.
So he would want that it be understood that if we're talking about succeeding him, we're talking about just that. We're not elevating a personality. He wouldn't want his own personality elevated. We're elevating a tradition of knowledge. And it so happens that the person that he put confidence in had to use language to establish the proper reference to him. And that's why I use that language, because the proper reference to him had to be established in the leadership. They're telling us we didn't need a leader. They still trying to say it. But secretly they know better, and they making plans. They ain't telling you about it yet, but it comes out here and there. They're making plans because they know that was a scheme to consolidate their own influence, that while they're not saying they're leaders, they are, and expecting you to follow them.
Yes.
And whatever decisions they're making. But at the same time, they're saying we don't have such. They think the people are not worthy of treating them respectfully and speak to them in clear language. Everything is coded. So, you know, it was necessary. If they had behaved properly, what I'm doing wouldn't be necessary. And for as long as it is necessary, I'll use that language, successor of Imam W. Deen Mohammed. When it becomes unnecessary, then we won't have to use it anymore. But I want it to be understood that, and you know, I know most of you all know this, who I'm looking at right now, you know. But I want it to be understood that the term is not a title.
Yes.
It's not a title. It's like it's a necessary function in a time period. And once it has been, the function itself has been fulfilled, then you can discard it. You don't have to use it anymore. And I don't know how long that'll be. It might be for the rest of my life. Maybe not. I don't know. Allah knows. But for as long as it's necessary, we'll use that language to establish what is the proper way, and to also establish respect for our tradition of leadership and a role that has been carved out for us to contribute to world leadership, to American leadership, and to Muslim leadership. So he would want that it be understood that.
Praise be to Allah.
Praise be to Allah. Very clear, very clear. I sent that clip out to a few people in the response in regards to that. Sister Sakinah, when you heard that at the Juma, give us your thoughts.
Wow. My first thought was, again, thinking about my children, and thinking about how language is used today, how words are used today, and using the term, you know, successor or the term leader, and it not having any emphasis being placed on it or it becoming problematic. We are in a time now where words and language are manipulated and changed and used for whomever, for their benefit, or they're to be taken, not to be taken seriously. And so when I listened and I heard you, ma'am, speaking about the term successor, for me, it meant, it resonated for me, for my children to understand the importance of language and how it's used and what it's used for, the power of language, where many Muslims are saying, oh, you know, we don't need quote unquote leadership, or the term successor is a problematic term, when in fact it is very much needed. It's very much important to specify leadership, or else we as a community will be, as the world is now, in a ball of confusion, with everyone being their own leaders, everyone following their own, path. And so then I look to my children who are here in a world trying to decipher where their place is, which path do they follow if there's so many, or there's an undesignated leader, and you're to determine your own path, so to speak. And so to listen to the Imam break down the purpose and the meaning for using the term successor, the necessary, the importance of using the word leadership and why that's important. I think that was very important for me, for my children to hear. It's not necessarily important for me because I have already stated, my claim. I know where I stand. But for my children to hear it and to understand why that was important, that was very meaningful for me.
Imam Dhuhan, when you heard the Imam give that understanding of the role of this language successor?
There's a strong air for me of innocence about how he expressed it. A strong situation for innocence. Like, it came across very, very innocent and very humble. And I say that with this in mind. Imam clarified, he went into detail about the importance of receptivity, or the placement of receptivity, and how the guidance of Allah comes upon a situation where people have built up a receptivity for the guidance. They have experiences that open them up to invite the guidance into their, like, they're craving, they're reaching for, they're searching for guidance. And that searching, that receptivity that they have is blessed and favored by Allah with his mercy in the form of his guidance. And so when Imam Abdulmalik talks about leadership and being the successor to Imam W.D. Muhammad in that context, and what it actually means, number one, it dispels the rumors that a lot of people associate with him. It dismisses the claim that, you know, he's being driven by, you know, ego or some sense of self-importance or self-aggrandizement or anything like that. But the way he explained it, like, it's clear, like, how can you refute that? It respects your natural dignity. Those who have an innocent claim to the legacy of Imam W.D. Muhammad's leadership, and those who sincerely want what Imam's leadership invites us to, and are moving with a sincere connection to what, you know, being associated with Imam W.D. Muhammad and this mission, this reviving of the life, this restoring of the life, this moving of the life in the direction of the intended destiny that dignifies us and lifts us up as a respected people in the world with a very emphatic purpose that compensates us for all of the burdens and hardships that we've had to endure in our past. Those people who are sincerely aligned with the interest to be in accord with that and move upon their innocence with this movement of the life. You listen to Imam Abdulmalik explain the placement of how we see leadership, the context for leadership, and the context for succeeding Imam W.D. Muhammad. And he also said that it doesn't end with him. He's just the first. He's just the first. And this thing continues. This thing continues. Whether leaders in the future for our community will be males or females, this thing continues. And to hear how Imam Abdulmalik expresses that, it fits right in line with how Imam.
You all right?
He's got his allergies is messing up on him.
It fits right in line with how Imam W.D. Muhammad expressed it. This is the succession of Imam W.D. Muhammad's way. This is the legitimate path and tradition of Imam W.D. Muhammad after his physical life with us.
Praise be to Allah. And what I heard there is exactly what you just said. A precise succession of his leadership. When I was listening to that clip, Sister Sakinah, he said, I had to use the language successor to establish the proper reference to Imam W.D. Muhammad, to establish the proper reference to Imam W.D. Muhammad, because they had knock down Imam W.D. Muhammad. And I'm thinking of a clip from your husband where Imam Muhammad said they'll be ready to knock me down once I pass. In your eyes, they'll be ready to knock me down and lift themselves up. And when I hear them say no leader after Imam Muhammad, that's exactly what I hear. He also said in this clip, the term is not a title. I heard people mention that term as though it was a title. You know, somebody is about to crown the Imam as king. King of what? King of what? Come on now. You all right, Imam Dhuhan?
Yes, sir. I'm good.
Yes.
I'm good. I'm very good.
Yes.
Imam, I
Yeah.
think that where folks are really somewhat, I don't even want to say confused, but the reason that they reject us here is because a group of people have come along and has done shura bainahum on this whole thing in terms of successor. And I think it insults the sensitivities and sensibilities of at least us that follow this line of thinking to have folks to believe that we don't know what the hell we're doing. We have accepted Imam Earl Abdulmalik Mohammed as a successor to Imam W.D. Muhammad in terms of elevating the language and the tradition that we have come from. And hey, maybe in the next hour we don't have to use that term, but we have to use that term until folks respect us as a group and as a people who are determined, you understand, to not leave off from that guided tradition of our leader, Imam W.D. Muhammad. And so when I came in, there was already a group of people following the Imam. And there's folks that are coming in each and every day to this leadership, following this leader. How are you going to discount these things? You're insulting a group of people who have said that they're going to rally around this here and give support to it and have done a good job supporting it, you know? So it's not just, I always say this here, it's not the Imam that the people dislike. They dislike us for supporting it. And we need to really come to grips with that and continue to let them know that we're not going anywhere. This is the leadership that has been defined. It's been pointed out. He was Imam W.D. Muhammad's partner. We've got clips. We went back and got the evidence. Imam Rafiq has got nothing but evidence that we're still uncovering. Not to make this claim, you understand, but to promote going forward that this is what is needed in the world. And if you look at that, listen to that Ramadan session, and more of the folks start to hear that, you're gonna see folks gonna say, yeah, you know, I'm with this here. I don't have any problem with successor. And a lot of people don't now. They don't have a problem with that term anymore. But it's just like what the Imam said, that he might not even have to use that tomorrow.
Let's show some pictures from the Ramadan session as we prepare to conclude with this episode of Bilalian Voices. We want to keep in mind we're in the month of Ramadan, and we want to be mindful of that. As we show these pictures, could you all give us some thoughts just on the pictures? Describe to the people what they're viewing, like this picture here.
So this picture was at the
This is
Juma.
possibly the best picture of them all right here. And I can tell you, this person was really immersed in what they were hearing, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, you could tell.
Could you get a closer up picture of that guy? Could it move up a little closer? Yeah.
Look, there's one for you.
This was beautiful here.
And this is the Juma.
Yes.
I said that's one of my daughters in the back.
This is Faraday. She had her middle daughter with her.
Yeah, that picture's pretty good. If I do say so myself.
The brother
No,
next to
this was at the Juma. I expressed to Imam Ibrahim, I was looking at these pictures, and these pictures fit right in line with what my sensitivity is for our community. When I think about like all of the documentaries that I've seen, all of the pictures, the articles, when Imam Deen Mohammed was alive, all of the promotions. I look at these pictures, and these pictures just they capture the spirit of the supporters of Imam Deen Mohammed, and you don't see this everywhere. The events in our community after the passing of Imam Deen Mohammed did not have the same. Everybody who's honest will acknowledge that they did not have the same spirit.
No.
At the events. They didn't feel the same. The spirit wasn't the same. The feeling in the room, it wasn't the same. But when I look at these pictures, especially not even having been there, well, I was there, so I experienced it for myself. But when I looked at the pictures, just the pictures themselves, I thought did an excellent job capturing a reflection, a reflection in time of our community, alive and vibrant.
Praise be to Allah.
I
I'm gonna get Sister Sakinah because I want Sister Sakinah to chime in on this. Could you show the picture so people can get the full understanding of the Ramadan session, that it consisted more than just a Juma, that it was a question and answer period? And I want Sister Sakinah to make her comment of what she was going to say, but also to talk about the opportunity to have access to ask these important questions and to hear the commentary that's coming back. What does that mean? To have that type of access, to ask a person that's qualified to give a response that registers with the soul and the mind and say, yes, this is what I needed to hear.
So when I look at the pictures and I see the photos from Juma and the Ramadan sessions, one thing that strikes me is the Imam Earl Abdulmalik Mohammed referenced the date palm tree throughout the Ramadan session. And the term roots is something that resonated with me, because when I look at these pictures and I see families like myself and like Imam Dhuhan bringing their children, it's us establishing roots for them in terms of, establishing their perspective on, their purpose in this life. And so that's the first thing when I look at it, I see, because it reminds me of my childhood and the roots that were established for me. And I think because those firm roots were established for me in this same tradition of going to Ramadan sessions, listening to the Imam, it allowed roots to be planted for me to continue to extend that to my family and to my children. And then to get to the Ramadan session and have a Q&A session where we are allowed to ask questions for the Imam to be able to extend, that knowledge on, what had been shared either during the Ramadan session, or even if we just had general questions, being able to share and extend our knowledge on that, give perspectives that my children can relate to, their everyday life. They can take this and relate it to life, as opposed to, getting, a hadith or something that they cannot they can't put their hands on. It's just something that you tell them, and then what are they to do with this information? But being able to get a perspective on how to apply this to your life, how to apply this to school, to work, when you're interacting with your peers, where do you see yourself? That was very, very special.
Mm.
You know, you have and these pictures are beautiful. You have some, they judge success of anything based upon if you have a crowd. And someone made the comment recently, I wonder why they never show pictures to, you know, insinuate like there's no one there. Well, this is obvious. I mean, I'm seeing people from all across the country that descended there on the Washington, D.C. area for the Ramadan Sessions. That brother we looking at right there, Tampa, Florida. Sister Sakinah, Atlanta, Georgia. Dhuhan Abdullah, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Imam Hanif, Rochester, New York.
And there was a lot of people who were not able to make it out live, who wanted to make it out, intended to come out, but just circumstances prevented them. But they did attend on the Zoom as well.
It was an outstanding gathering of once again, I believe, of a community that supports this succession, and we cannot underscore that enough. Following Imam W. Deen Mohammed's language and continuing with that language is very, very important. But the delivery of that, the Imam, I mean, he brought that thing home all the way to the end. You know, he talked about the nature of Adam, the intelligence that would come to that nature in Ibrahim, the character that was built in Prophet Muhammad, Uswatun Hasnatun, and Imam W. Deen Mohammed that modeled all of this for us. And we have this today. We have this today in this world, and the Imam says there's no other people. You would have to question, why would God select us as a people in this day and time to have the conversation about the human person? You know, he laid into that. I just thought it'd be good, and I'm hoping what I thought the young people would take away from this here, because it reminded me of the time of Prophet Muhammad. The first Muhajirin, the first refugees or migrated first, was Jafar and them, and they went to Abyssinia. And remember, Negus asked them, says, well, you know, what are you doing here? And the Quraysh had boycotted them, the parents and everything else like this. Says, well, tell me about this guy that sent you here, you know? They never met Prophet Muhammad, but Jafar told him, he says, this guy right here, he told us to be kind to our parents. Now, remind you, the parents had boycotted these young people. He says, don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal. And the Negus finally gave them shelter based upon that. These were young people. These were the first followers of Prophet Muhammad. So the Imam taught in that same way, and I think that our young people really walked away with something doing that, you know, and hopefully we can get more young people to come in and listen to that, you know. But the Imam really taught, man, and I thought that the real beneficiaries of all of this were a lot of the young people that attended, and I think that we just gonna move forward with that. But this succession is a real thing.
Imam Dhuhan?
Yes, sir. I thought it was very significant how Imam Abdulmalik gave some very specific and very practical advice for young people in the Jummah.
Yes.
As a people in history, with the background that we have, the history of resistance and all that goes along with it. we get caught up in some tendencies, and a lot of times when things happen out in the world, and we want to lend our support, or we want to stand up and put ourselves in resistance to something that's happening, a lot of times we're not following our people are not following a solid leadership tradition, but they're following the spirit of the moment, as supported by, you know, the conflicts that we've endured in our past. But Imam Abdulmalik, who is deeply in touch with the sensitivities of our people, he is a mouthpiece for the best expressions of our people, was able to put some extremely clear and profound advice to the young people, especially those on college campuses and of that age, who have the spirit to rebel, or to go against the system, to stand up and make your voice be heard. He put a lot of that into context, and you know, we don't have that clip here, but the Jummah, it's in the Jummah of the Ramadan Sessions, and that was streamed live, so that's available on YouTube.
Yeah.
Under the EAM Speaks channel, and it's also on Facebook. It's on all the social media platforms. But that Jummah of the Ramadan Sessions this past weekend, delivered by Imam Earl Abdulmalik Mohammed, very much worth going back to watch for that and the rest of what he said. So I wanted to say that. You talking about the young people.
Bringing that up about the young people and the spirit to rebel. Before we conclude, we would like Sister Sakinah to make some last reflections, and we want to bring up a picture for Sister Sakinah so she can address this picture and just give us some thoughts on the picture. It's one of our #1 supporters, Mr. Amir.
So this picture is he's wearing his Bilalian tracksuit that Imam Terrenzo is correct. He demanded was to be made in his size. And it's important to know that Bilalian is something I grew up as a child. My father telling me, you know, this is who I identify with as, you know, Bilalian, not Black, not, you know, African American. You're a Bilalian. And as a child, for me, you know, that's something I'm like, I'm not going to say that. Everybody's going to laugh at me. It's ridiculous. I'm not, you know, it's not something that I've connected with as a child. But this child has connected with it and embraced it. He's proud of it. He wants to learn more about it. He's only, and it's only a reflection of his exposure to Imam Earl Abdulmalik Mohammed. It's very important that I say that when we talk about, when me and my husband, and we were talking, and sometimes we reflect on Imam W. Muhammad, or we say something, Amir will often say, "Where is my Imam?" Because he's thinking that he did not know Imam W. Muhammad, and so he didn't experience him as I did, as we did growing up. For him, his Imam is Imam Earl Abdulmalik Mohammed, and Imam Earl Abdulmalik Mohammed is giving him Imam Deen Mohammed. And so him wearing this Bilalian is a true representation of his spirit, of his determination to continue, you know, this succession. When I think of the word succession, as Imam Earl Abdulmalik Mohammed explained it, this is what he meant by that. It must continue. And this child is 10 years old. And so I only pray that this love and desire continues with him, as we will continue to take him with us. He looks forward to the next, in Cincinnati is where we will be next. And then therefore, because this is the purpose of this.
Yes.
He's got a one of a kind here, man. My goodness, man. I mean, he's laid out in in his tracksuit. We can't get that color. If I tried to order that color, can't get it, brother.
Yeah, he got a special one. He got a hoodie on the back
Yeah,
of it. Yeah, he looked nice in that. He looked very nice in that. Thank you, Sakinah, for that explanation of that picture. And thank you, our guest tonight, Imam Dhuhan, for your reflections. As I mentioned, Sister Sakinah, for your excellent reflections, and Imam Hanif Abdul Wahid, and what you shared. As we prepare to conclude, we want to share announcements regarding the leadership of Imam Earl Abdulmalik Mohammed. Join us Sunday morning, 9 a.m., April 6, 2025, for our first Sunday address in the tradition of Imam W. Deen Mohammed. The theme for the first Sunday address, researching our faith and supporting business life in our community. For those of us who are alive during the leadership of Imam W. Deen Mohammed, we know that researching our faith and supporting business life in our community was a theme of his for his first Sunday address. The inaugural New Africa Cultural and Business Summit will take place in Cincinnati, Ohio on Saturday, June 14, 2025. Muslim American leader Imam Earl Abdulmalik Mohammed will give a major public address. His topic, enlightenment, dignity, excellence, and establishment. Islam's help to the needy and affluent. This will take place at the Cincinnati Main Public Library, there on 800 Vine Street. The zip code is 45202. The time, doors open at 12 noon. Program begins at 1 p.m. It's free and open to the public. And we will have more information coming soon with promotion, advertisement, all of that in regards to the first annual New Africa Cultural and Business Summit. Join us every Sunday morning for our Islamic Studies class at 9 a.m., taught in the tradition of Muhammad the Prophet with the methodology of Imam W. Deen Mohammed, taught by his partner and successor, Imam Earl Abdulmalik Mohammed. You can register for free at eamspeaks.com and hit the tab Islamic Studies class. Our podcast, A Prescription for Society, Family Ties, the Frank and Farda Show, comes on every Wednesday at 7 p.m. You can find it on Apple, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. A Prescription for Society, Family Ties. Now we would like to conclude with the prayer of purification and purpose from Imam W. Deen Mohammed. O Allah, we cannot manage this life for ourselves, not without you. Please make our life what you would want it to be, what you prefer it to be. Do not allow us to act on our own. Help us to act only in obedience to you. We hear you, we obey you, and we look to you for forgiveness, our Lord, and to you is our destination. Amen.